Good morning, everyone. I am just going to get us started here in the interest of being conscious of time. I have 9:31, and we are going to call the meeting to order. And we have a quorum because Jared is amazing and he has let me know that we have a quorum. We are going to start with some introductions first off. I think I will kick it off to the virtual side of the universe and let virtual folks chime in and introduce themselves.
Ted Schweitzer, Cripple Creek Transit.
And I'm happy to start calling on people. Let's go ahead. Deanna.
Diana Van Auken.
There you go.
Teller Senior Coalition.
Thank you. Chelsea.
Chelsea Gondak with the Downtown Partnership.
Thank you. Emily.
I'm Emily with the City of Fountain.
Thank you. Mark Bowers. And Mark looks like he's trying to come off unmute. We're not able to hear you, but we're going to keep moving on to Valerie Anders.
Valerie Anders with Silver Key.
Thank you. We got Laura Cruz from PPACG.
Laura Cruz, Mobility Coordinator.
And Laura, do you want to take it from here? Because I know some people are on the committee and some may be listening in. You might know who's on the roster.
Yeah. Let me go through here. Let's see, we got Ted. Paul, introduce yourself.
Paul Spots, AT Specialist at Independent Center.
Luke.
Luke Kurtz on a monument.
Great. Laura Chronic.
Yeah, this is Laura, Town of Monument.
Thank you. And then we have, last but not least, Jackson Simmons.
Yes, good morning. Jackson Simmons at Mountain Metro Transit, sitting in for Jacob Matson today.
Awesome. Thanks, Jackson, for joining us.
Thank you,
I think
Laura.
that is all.
I think that's everyone online. Yep.
Okay, fantastic. So then we'll just go around the room here. I will start with my right.
Mary Wagner, Cripple Creek Transit.
Melissa Martz with the Pikes Peak Area Agency on Aging. And we also have a guest in the room today who's interested in the Mobility Coordinating Committee, and that is Lois Landgraf. And she's on the TRE board, along with other past experience as a state representative. Thank you, Lois.
And then Deanna Rumsey from the Independence Center. All right, Jared. Cool. All right, moving right along. So we will move to approve the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved, Chelsea.
And a second?
Second, Diana Van Auken.
Fantastic. All right, so I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as it stands. Do we then take a vote? Oh, all right. So we will now take a vote to approve the agenda as it stands. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Hearing no opposition, we will move to approve the agenda as it stands. All right. Fantastic. We will approve the minutes from last meeting on February 28th. Do I have a motion to approve those meeting minutes?
Diana Van Auken. Motion to approve the minutes.
And do I have a second?
I'll second, Chelsea.
Fantastic. So we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the February 28th meeting as they stand. And we will take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 And any opposed? All right, hearing no opposition, we will move to approve the minutes from the February 28th meeting as they stand. Moving right along to the next piece of business. Public comments and presentations. We potentially have a presentation from the ADA coordinator that will not be happening until later on in the meeting. So we will, I will defer to the room. Do we have any other public comments or presentations? No? Okay, all right, seeing none, we will move on to action items, the bylaw approval. Fantastic.
Good morning, all. I can help with this, Deanna. So many of you guys know that we started this conversation of updating our bylaws last March, I believe. And the reason behind it is it's just good for us to revisit our bylaws every now and then and just make for sure that they are aligning with the purpose of this group in the now and then timeline. And so we've talked a lot about this as a group as well as an executive committee. So whenever we make a change to the bylaws, we want to ensure that this group supports those changes as well as the board of directors. So as we review some of these changes this morning, we'll talk through them, and then if the group approves these changes, we will make the recommendation to the board to also approve these changes and make them permanent. And I apologize, I'm kind of losing my voice this morning, but so we didn't do any life-changing things. I just want to preface that in the revisions of the bylaws. And Jared, do you mind popping onto the screen the recommendations? There we go. I just want to highlight some of the areas that we have changed. If you can scroll down. Yes, there you go. We sent this out prior to the meeting. We did make a couple adjustments, but not any major adjustments as of Friday. But in blue is the new language that we're suggesting to this committee as well as to our board to support. The biggest things that we were looking at when we were kind of putting together language was the relevancy of it, and making for sure that this group had great direction moving forward. So the changes to the importance of the mobility section are pretty straightforward. And the additional things that we included was providing independence and the ability to support general quality of life and equitable access. I think that's something that all of us as transit providers and transit advocates are always looking to do as organizations as we coordinate with each other. And then we smashed together a little bit. There was actually two sections of mobility benefits, so we smashed those together into one section. So a little bit of formalities there. But we were looking at the relevancy again of what are the mobility benefits that this group is trying to promote. And so I know that many of you guys on the call are specialized transit or paratransit providers, but we recognize that it is a system that needs to be in place to support all the needs of our communities. So revisiting these mobility benefits and what we're trying to support as a group was our intent. You can go further down. There is a slight change here in terms of responsibilities. In the past, the MCC went directly, the MCC's recommendations went directly to the board of directors. in talking through sort of the processes and the action items that the MCC typically takes, the action items that are typically tackled in the MCC actually have to go through our Transportation Advisory Committee as a federal mandate before it goes to the Board of Directors. So this language to A was changed a little bit to reflect that federal mandate. The TAC reviews, funding opportunities, funding distribution in our area. Those of you who know that the FTA 5310 funds come through PPACG, all those funding decisions have to go through the TAC before it can go to the Board of Directors. And so that's why we made this addition here. Is there any questions around that? It's really a procedural change. If there's no questions around that, we'll shoot to B. One of the things that we would like to do moving forward is actually have folks from the regional coordinating councils, which are starting in Park County, and we already have one in Teller County. Having someone from each one of those groups report into the MCC about the coordination efforts going on in their area. And so the reason for this is so that if there's identification of crossover and a way that this committee could help with sort of regional transit challenges or transportation opportunities, this is a great platform and place to have those conversations. So we made this addition to the group. It's also includes an El Paso County Transit Operations Group, which has not actually started, but it's something that PPACG staff feel there's a need to get started on that, specifically as we jump into the specialized transit plan for the Metropolitan Planning Organization area. So MCC, looking at it from our COG, so PPACG's Tri-County service area, and having the regional coordinating councils just help bring information into the MCC to see if there's some regional things that we could be working on. All right, scroll down. Voting. The voting section was a little obscure. So I think there was some copying and pasting from other bylaws of committees. So we just wanted to clear some of that up and also make it something that is reasonable to this group, because most of our other committees at PPACG are appointed individuals. And so what's a little bit unique about the MCC is that we're working with member entities, right? Transit organizations, transit advocates, local jurisdictions, those types of agencies. And so we needed some more flexibility of our voting membership in our bylaws. And so we also recognize that some of these things we were already doing, but it didn't necessarily align with what our current bylaws were saying. So we wanted to make for sure that the changes that were made really followed what we were currently doing within the group. So the additional thing that we had here was each member organization may designate up to 3 representatives to act on behalf of the organization when an action item is before the committee. Designations must be made prior to the meeting. All issues shall be settled by a majority vote. And so the change there is really organizations are allowed to appoint 3 members. Not 3 members, 3 staff members to be as official voting members of the committee. So it's only 1 vote per agency, but y'all have essentially 2 backups that you can designate, because we know that this group, it has a lot of people that are operations focused. And so sometimes people get pulled away for different things, but we want to make for sure that you guys have adequate representation on this committee as we may have voting items. Any questions on that section? All right, we can scroll down. This addition to this procedure section is really just a change in wording. I think we all struggle as a group with the structure of Robert's rules, right? It kind of stymies, I think that's maybe the right word, but it stymies like this creative speaking, open conversation, that kind of thing. And so we wanted to make for sure that it was a way that we utilized to guide our conversations, but it wasn't the thing that trumped our conversation. So I wanted to make for sure that people had the ability to, and our executive committee wanted this as well, had the ability to speak freely in these meetings. If we have specific topics that you guys feel like you need tackled, something that you may need help with from this group or whatnot, that there's freedom there to be able to have these discussions and stop people in the middle of the meeting and let's get going on a conversation that is an immediate need for you guys. So we changed that language just a little bit. All right, scroll down. Membership. We adjusted the membership, and this may be a point of conversation here a little bit. The changes that we made here was membership will include representatives of nonprofit, governmental, for-profit entities. One of the changes that stands out there is for-profit entities. There was an assumption, I think, in the past that only nonprofit and governmental agencies could be a part of the MCC. But if we're talking about the system as a whole, there's a lot of for-profit entities that play a huge role in that. And so for them not to feel like they can have representation on this group, I think is sort of a miss. And so that's something that I want you guys to kind of think about, because while it was addressed this way in our current bylaws, it wasn't called out, but it didn't exclude a for-profit entity in our current bylaws. So we wanted to call this out. And if there is any discussion, this is kind of the time to have that. But I'm going to finish this section before we have that discussion. So membership includes representatives of nonprofit, governmental, for-profit entities involved in planning, funding, and providing public human service and job access, transportation services in the Pikes Peak region. In addition, members may include community-based organizations serving disadvantaged populations. We called this last portion out as well, because we have some member entities that are on this committee already that really aren't transit providers, but needed a place within this committee because they provide such value in terms of advocacy for their clients, as well as just having a pulse on the needs in the community, which is something that when you're in the weeds of operations, you don't always have that connection to that. So, and we called this out as an opportunity to expand our membership. All right. And any questions, comments about that?
So Laura, this is Melissa.
Yep.
And I'm going to wait just a few more seconds to see if anyone else has a comment or question, and then I'm going to share a few things.
Okay.
Okay. So I think that this is really a good day today to highlight what membership can really look like with the MCC. because we have Luke and Laura from the City of Monument who are in attendance today. And so those folks, if they decide that the Mobility Coordinating Committee is the right place for them, they would potentially be appointed by their jurisdiction, the City of Monument, to attend this, the MCC. And so they would be kind of representing the town of Monument and the issues that are at play there. And then, if those folks were to leave their position at any point in time, then the City of Monument would be looking to find another person to represent them. The town of Monument could also appoint just a citizen, not necessarily a staffer. So they could also do that if they wanted. But at this point, it looks like they're wanting to appoint staff people. Well, and then actually Laura, correct me if I'm wrong, is actually a city council person. So that kind of brings another layer of MCC membership here to our conversations. So that's one piece. And then we have in the room today, Lois Landgraf, who is here potentially as a Resource Exchange board member. And so Lois would potentially have the Resource Exchange recommending her to represent the Resource Exchange here on this committee. But it's also possible that Lois might say she wanted to be a member at large, just representing individuals with disabilities or older adults, whoever her population is, that she wants to be representing just in general. So kind of a conversation for Lois to be thinking about, is it the TRE board that would be representing her to represent the TRE board, or would Lois be applying to be a member as a member at large? So we have kind of on our meeting today a little bit of all of the possibilities for new membership here today, and just wanted to bring that up.
Thanks, Melissa. Is there any, I'm going to put it out there again, is there any questions or concerns about these changes? $1,001, $1,002, $1,003, sold. Okay. All right, Jared, can we scroll back down? Thank you. So, wait, hold on. Keep going. All right. So, right there, this will help. So as Melissa was talking about, this is actually something that's been in our bylaws since, a very long time. Most of you guys know we serve 16 member jurisdictions. I think that's the correct number. And so on every one of our committees, our member jurisdictions, except for the TAC, our member jurisdictions can appoint members to our committees that the members have an interest in what the committee is. So those of you who are familiar with the Regional Advisory Committee of the AAA, jurisdictions have representatives on those committees to help inform the committee as a whole of the issues that are going on in their area, opportunities that are going on in their area, as well as they have a seat at the table for funding decisions. And so I think it's important for us as a MCC as well to help kind of recruit as well as educate the community on opportunities to engage in our committee. So our member entities can appoint folks to our committee, and we would highly love more member entities to appoint members to our committee so that we can have that greater input into our coordination plans. Okay, Jared, you can scroll down. One of the other things that I do want to highlight, and I think I lost it a little bit because it got small, but we've been doing this in practice, but hasn't necessarily made the official change in our bylaws. But in the past, Mountain Metro was considered a funding or planning agency. And so they were excluded from being a voting member. Well, they have been a voting member the past couple of years because PPACG has taken over the funding piece. We also looked at the exclusion of planning organizations in the voting membership, and looked at it from the perspective of we all are planning organizations. That would exclude, Envita, who is doing a 5304 grant up in Park County, and y'all's individual planning types of activities. So wanted to put out there that while we've been doing this in practice, it hasn't been highlighted in our bylaws, that because of the change of funding and that kind of thing and how it works, and PPACG being the administering the specialized transportation funding in our area, that we did move Mountain Metro into the ability to be a voting member. Is there any concerns from the group about that? One 1,000, two 1,000, three 1,000. Sold. All right. Keep moving. Thanks, Jared. Here in section 5, just talking about absenteeism. We didn't make a lot of changes here, but I wanted to point it out because I think it's something that we haven't really addressed or held people to. The pandemic kind of threw a wrench in the world, and so we understood that you guys were having to focus very much so on your operations. But in order for us to continue as a group and really build our group, and we need some sort of accountability and participation, and allowing organizations to have up to three designated voting. I want to make for sure I say this right. 3 designated individuals that can vote on behalf of their organization. That we hope that encourages more participation in this group and more representation within this group. And so what is currently in the bylaws, and also pretty reflected in these current changes, is member entities missing 3 consecutive regularly scheduled meetings or 4 regularly scheduled meetings during the calendar year shall be contacted by the executive committee and PPACG staff to determine their intentions of participating in the committee. So this is something we're going to track a little more, just so that we are engaging folks and making sure that there is adequate representation of our organizations on the committee as we work through coordination efforts. So this is something that's been in there, bringing it as a highlight. We made a couple of changes to the language because it was a little obscure. And so hope that people understand the importance of this. All right. Vacancies. Just to let you guys have been pretty great about letting us know when you are appointing new staff members or new community members or representatives to the committee. But those appointments need to be made in writing by notifying PPACG staff. And for the purpose of this meeting or this committee, that would be Melissa March for the sort of administrative part of that. And for everybody, most people who have been doing this already have been emailing Melissa and copying me, and I appreciate that. So just know that if you have an additional member, now that we have up to 3, that you want to send those updated rosters of representatives for your organization. All right, section 7. This is very similar. If you have any changes, so if there's somebody who no longer works for your organization and you want to replace them, just let us know. All of our members have to be approved by the board of directors. So while we will vote on them as a group, those members will go to the board of directors to be officially voted onto the committee. It's typically done on the consent agenda, but the board of directors has the ability to pull anything off of the consent agenda for a conversation. All right, keep going. Keep going. I think that's pretty standard. Let's see. One of the things here is in duties of officers. When we have one subcommittee, but we actually don't have any members right now, and that is the subcommittee is the membership committee. And so this is one of the things we would like to grow. We've talked as a group about having actually, members of the committee, a subcommittee that helps inform this committee about, what the needs are in the community. So essentially citizens that are either transit riders or transit advocates or have different needs in the community that they're helping, people navigate, that we in the future look at putting together a subcommittee of those individuals to help inform us throughout the process and help connect us to the needs. And so while we don't have a committee like that, a subcommittee like that right now, there's opportunities to have subcommittees in the future that we'll talk about within this group. And so this is just a procedural way of how to manage subcommittees. One of the additions that we also add to the duties of officers, and something we just called out in this because it's a very much so a need within this group, is the vice chair will lead the membership effort. So that is Chelsea right now from the Downtown Partnership. And with your help, and so we want to add additional members to a membership committee, but with your help, she will be guiding those conversations. Scroll. All right, this was just a procedural thing, nothing really crazy. All right, and again, procedural thing, we just affirmative vote by 2/3. We just clarified that. It was a little obscure. And scroll up. I think that is all. Jared?
That's all the blue highlighted text that we had in the document.
Yep. All right. Any questions, concerns? We would like to bring this to the committee today for a vote to accept these bylaws and make the recommendation to our board of directors to accept these bylaws.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Laura. And I appreciate the entire committee's work on this. It's been a monumental task. It's been a lot of hours of dedication. So I really appreciate everybody's work and effort on this. So I will put it forth. Do I have a motion to accept the bylaws as they have been revised and presented today?
This is Chelsea, so moved.
And do I have a second?
This is Val with Silver Key. Second.
All right, so I have a motion and a second to accept the bylaws as they've been presented today. All in favor,
Aye.
Say. All right, any opposed? All right, seeing no opposition, the measure has been passed and we will move these forward to the next step, which I believe is then going to the board. Is that correct, Laura? Okay,
Correct.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yay. All right, moving right along. Membership appointments, review vacancies and processes. Any of those pieces that we need to attend to today?
I
So
think
this
we,
is,
go ahead, Melissa.
so I was going to say, I think that as part of the bylaw conversation, we actually did address that a little bit. You know, for the most part, most of our jurisdictions have not actually appointed any individuals because that really hasn't been a focus of the committee in the past. So, but now, since we're talking about it, that'll become more important. And then, of course, as a result of that, we had the town of Monument already step up, and Lois's recommendation actually came from Mayor Thompson down in Fountain. But actually Lois would be coming to us from probably the Resource Exchange. So, but we'll talk more about that. And so just, you know, realizing, as Laura mentioned, Chelsea kind of being the kind of chair for membership, that as people think about opportunities for other organizations to want to come and sit at the table to talk about mobility and transit needs for the individuals that we serve and work with, you know, we can be sharing that with Chelsea, doing outreach. And then, of course, we will continue to do more outreach to our actual jurisdictions to look at actual appointments from those member jurisdictions as well. So we have a lot, 3 different categories. Would love to have a member at large, just a, you know, a person from the community who represents, you know, people with disabilities, older adults, just always looking for that as well, just to be a part of our committee. So I think that we kind of covered that, but any other conversations, questions are welcome. Or not. I think we're good.
All right, thank you so much for that, Melissa. All right, so then we are moving on to item number 7, the PPACG Military Fellow. I don't see that particular gentleman in the room today.
Yes. So he is actually up in Denver for an interview. So I will give his update for him.
Fantastic.
So many of you guys got to meet either virtually or in person last month our military fellow Nick Schmidt. The military fellow program, just as a reminder, is basically a transition program for military members who are leaving or exiting the military, and gives them time to get immersed a little bit in just the normal, I would say normal day-to-day work life of folks. And so he has been working on a special assignment of kind of mapping out the needs of veteran transportation in our state. So it's a statewide initiative that he's been working on. So connecting within the regions with the veteran service organizations as well as transit providers to identify what services are being offered, what services does the VA cover, and what services aren't covered, so that we have a better understanding of what the needs are in our communities. So he's been putting together kind of a roadmap and interviewing a lot of folks to give us a start as a group here, as well as a group of mobility committees across the state, to start working on how can we make these connections for veterans, because the connections for veterans don't really have boundaries like we have service area boundaries. And so specifically, if you're trying to get a veteran across the state to the VA hospital. So these are some things that we've been talking about with our our fellow folks at CASTA, as well as the other COGs throughout the state and CDOT. And so he has been able to focus on intensely kind of this painting the picture of the need, and then putting together the resources that are currently available. So one of the things that I want to call out to this group as the need from you guys, and I appreciate some of you all have already stepped up to the plate to help with these conversations. But I'd like to connect folks on this call to Nick, who are actively participating in transporting veterans to specifically, medical facilities. If that's something that you are doing, whether it is at a small extent or a large extent, it'd be great for him to include that in his map. And I know that a lot of folks on the call are just doing this organically within the request from the public of needing transportation. But if this is something that you really are tracking, it'd be great if you could connect with him, so that he can include that in his report. So that's all I have for the military fellow update. Any questions? Comments? All right. I will take on B. I think all of these are mine. So I just wanted to give everybody an update on the specialized transit plan timeline, as well as the transit plan timeline. And our folks at MMT who are on the call, or Jacob's on the call, cool. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but we have done an initial, we have put out an RFP, done an initial meeting with potential consultants that will be going after that bid, essentially, to do that plan. And we had no questions from our consultants, so I guess we did a great job of putting together our scope of work for those plans. But what has been the hang-up is actually we have funding that was supposed to be transferred from PPACG over MMT to create this big pot of funding to do these two plans, that has been held up in CDOT world for the past 9 months. And so we are at the mercy of CDOT to transfer those funds over for us so that we can actually kick off we kicked off the RFP, but we have not gotten proposals in because we are in sort of this weird space of waiting on CDOT. So hopefully within the next month or so, we will have our funding secured. It's already secured, but transferred over for the plan. And then with that, once we secure the consultants, we'll be working within this group to identify, we're working within this group to engage in conversations, literally just to talk about opportunities for more coordination. I've said, I don't know how many times within this committee that these plans are so important because basically if projects aren't called out in these plans, they can't be funded by federal funds. And so it's important for you guys to be at the table. We'll also be doing a lot of public engagement. So working with the public to have input into these plans. So our goal is to have that public input, and essentially the providers will be addressing how they're going to help out in solving some of these challenges that the public has in accessing transportation. So that all being said is TBD. Hopefully we'll have a better update next month for this group, knowing that we have the funding all sorted out and we're ready to go. With that plan, just a reminder that the plan does not happen within a few months. This will be a 12-month planning process that we'll go through. So there's an extensive amount of time that we'll be working on these planning efforts. Any questions on that? All right. I'm going to share my screen real quick. If you hear my dog, I apologize. He is in the background. So we talked last month about the gap analysis that PPACG conducted this previous year of needs in our area for around specialized transportation. And a part of that, we worked with a consultant, HDR, to put together some deliverables. And one of those deliverables was actually a web map. And so I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of an overview of this web map. This is something that's available to you all. I'll send out again after this meeting the link to this web map, as well as there is a memo that the consultants put together that explain the layers that are here. So when you first open the web map, it's going to look similar to this. It won't have the layers listed, but if you go down to this, it'll highlight and it says layer list. So the intentions with this web map was to really identify those hot spots of where people need to go, want to go, and also identify who's providing that transportation and understand where we have, geological, I think that's the word, gaps in services. So I'm going to unhighlight some of these areas here. So I know that a lot of people from transit providers on the call are taking people to healthcare facilities, right? These are the major healthcare facilities that have been mapped out for us, and you can actually click on them. It will show up on here which healthcare facility is on this map. But one of the things that is specifically, and I'm looking at El Paso, but we also have this map if you want to look at it from the perspective of Woodland Park. We did the mapping for both Teller Park and El Paso counties. So I'm just using El Paso as an example. So many of you guys know that Mountain Metro Transit provides paratransit services, and the specialized transit providers in El Paso County really work towards addressing needs that are outside of paratransit services. So people who need door-through-door services or live outside of the 3/4 mile radius of Mountain Metro's fixed route, which is where they provide their paratransit services. So if you look at these healthcare facilities in particular, let's see, and then you click on Mountain Metro service area, this is the service area for their paratransit.
Hey,
This,
Laura,
yes.
can I jump in real fast? So I haven't sent you off because I was gonna send it with the mobility guide you're looking at, but this actually isn't our there are some errors in the service area here that are not part of our area.
Okay.
So I'll send those off to you. Is Friday too late for that? I don't know if this is an active, if there's an ability to adjust this, but yeah, the route 38 and 40 are extending our service area in the north where those are not fixed routes.
Okay.
So
Yeah, just send that to me. And also, I just want to give a caveat. This is going to be updated with the long-range transportation plan. So this was the current map that we had when we were doing this study. So we recognize that there's going to be some movement here.
Okay.
But Jacob, if you want to call out right now, as we're looking at this, where this may extend so that people kind of have a visual.
So I guess I'll start with what we do cover. Those little donut holes there are covered. Those are not out of our service area. And then on the north end, you have those kind of two spurs that kind of come off. It's off of our route 38 and 40, which is what you're coming off of.
Yep.
Those are deviated fixed routes. They're not fixed route service. So those would not have metro mobility service on those.
Okay. Okay.
Those are the ones that came to mind.
Okay. So these two are just deviated, right?
Yeah. Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. That's good to know. And that's something I think Casey, this is a side note, but Casey on our GIS team has been working with MMT on kind of updating this information.
Okay, so this is in-house then. It's not the consultants that worked this then.
Well, the consultants did work this, but they got this from us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So then, okay, sounds good.
Which we got it from y'all. So that's how the telephone train went. So thanks for that clarification though, Jacob. So if you're looking at this map, obviously Jacob just mentioned some adjustments here, but there's areas within this map where there is definitely some medical facilities that fall outside of Mountain Metro's paratransit service area. Actually more if you're talking about these two areas being just a deviated fixed route. So these are the areas that are being pulled, that our specialized transit providers are being pulled to serve, as well as areas within Mountain Metro's area for those that are providing services for door-through-door services. Now, one of the cool things that, thanks to our big providers that are on the call, you guys gave us origin and destination information to kind of overlay with this to understand where people are going, not just where facilities are, but what are the trends of where people are going. So actually Mountain Metro provided this as well. We designated these in hotspots. So the darker areas are the most prominent areas of where people are going. And then take this out. From a specialized transportation perspective, you can see that there is actually some overlap here, right, between these layers. So specifically, if you see here, this is a dark area for both Mountain Metro's destinations as well as the specialized transportation destinations. We wanted to look at not just those destinations where people are going, but also, let me undo some of these things here. Oops. Transit propensity. So transit propensity, I had to look up what this meant, is basically propensity means the possibility of individuals needing transit based upon factors of, disability, income, accessibility, and there's one more. No, those were the three main ones that we looked at. And so this is why we hire consultants. They're a lot more well-versed on mapping these types of things. But these darker areas here are where we have the highest transit propensity for specialized transportation. And so these are kind of our target areas. If you're thinking about, okay, where are people that may need our services based upon these factors? And these darker areas that I'm highlighting right here, this is where we're seeing a lot of need within our transportation folks. And these are things like I said, you guys are going to have access to this. You can play around with it. If you see here, if you click the arrow down, it'll identify what these colors mean. So that's easy to kind of navigate. We also put our boundaries on here. So if you wanted to see, say for instance, our AAA boundary. Let's see if I can scroll. I don't mean to make people sick if I'm trying, if I am. So here highlights our AAA boundary, which is the 3-county region. This black line here. So this is where you can essentially, if there's providers on the call that get AAA funding, this is where you can operate with your AAA funding. PPRTA is a much smaller area. So you can kind of see where this is located. Let me get rid of this. This is the PPRTA boundary area. You'll see that there's different parts within the within this big area that are not a part of PPRTA. So the Monument Palmerette Lake area and then the Fountain area are not a part of PPRTA. Taking that off, PPACG MPO boundary. So when I say MPO, it's Metropolitan Planning Organization. This is a federally assembled organization for metropolitan areas, and PPACG is the MPO for our region. And so when we talk about like 5310 funding, this is the area that covers. And then we have some different areas here that you can also utilize. And you can scroll in. So if we want to look at specific streets, we can get down to street level. So we have the specific street level here. Any questions about this? Do y'all feel this is useful? Something y'all can play around with?
Laura,
Yeah, Laura, this is. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
So I do find this very helpful. This is really interesting stuff, and it's good to see this in a visual format and see where stuff is at. And I really liked it.
Yeah. Well, we're seeing that our big problem, I hate to say this, our big problem area is really up here in the north. This is where all of the hospitals are starting to build facilities, and we've seen that specialized transit providers, from looking at it from a geographical perspective, is having to cover a lot of trips in this area, which has in the past been kind of outside of, especially in the Monument area, kind of been outside of their main service area. And so this is an area of concern that we highlighted in the report, because paratransit services is limited here, as well as specialized transit service providers. There's a limited number that actually go into this area and provide a limited number of rides. So I think that that's something for, as we're getting into the transit plan and specialized transit plan, for us to kind of talk about, because these are now very heavily populated areas as well. So I think this is a concern for us to definitely highlight as we're looking at those plans.
So I just wanted to share that I really appreciate this map. I'm just thinking of that conversation that's happening at the state level about state preemption on housing zoning. And if we're thinking potentially that at some point we're going to have higher density housing throughout Colorado Springs to kind of, serve as a valve on our housing issue, I can see that this kind of tool would be incredibly helpful, and just thinking in the future about how we're going to be having more conversations about transporting potentially a lot more people in high density areas where, road traffic is just not going to be a possibility. Parking is not going to be a possibility. So we're going to be very challenged and have to be very creative about how we're going to transport those folks and what those fixed routes are going to have to look like in terms of frequency and duration. So I just thought I'd put that happy note on everybody's radar that with the possibility of that coming down the pipeline legislatively, something to think about as it impacts transit.
Great, thanks, Deanna. All right, I will send this out. I think I've sent it out already one time, but I'll send it out again with the memo that kind of describes the layers for folks. Great, let me stop my share. Jared, do you want to pull up the agenda again? Okay. The only last announcement that I have is just wanted to let you guys know that CASTA released the dates for the spring conference. So CASTA, for those of you who may not know, is the Colorado Association of Transit Agencies. I don't really know where the S comes in, but they put on a conference in the spring and in the fall, and the conference this spring will be in Pueblo, so not very far for folks. You could actually probably, if you wanted to do the hour commute there from Colorado Springs or wherever, the further you go, the further it will be. But if you are interested in that conference, you could just go to the CASTA website and look at the initial agenda. They haven't posted the finalized agenda, but there's some great sessions that are going to be offered there. I think this is also a good opportunity for if there's any new transit folks in your organizations for them to be able to get some exposure to transit and what is all about transit in our world. So just an opportunity. And that is it for me.
All right. Thank you so much. We are still waiting to see if Rob Hernandez will be joining us.
He just
he's here.
popped in.
Oh, fantastic. Yay.
Hey,
Very
how are
excited.
you?
Good morning. How are you?
Well, I'm doing well. At first, I logged on and I didn't see my camera or my mic where it was allowing me to, it was subdued, in other words. It wasn't allowing me the option to go ahead and click on so I can come on, but it seems to have worked out.
No worries.
So thanks for the invite.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you like to just introduce yourself, and then I'll let you take it from there?
Sure. So my name is Robert. I go by Rob Hernandez. I'm the ADA manager for the city of Colorado Springs, and actually that title's changing now to Office of Accessibility Manager. So the accessibility manager. And the reason for that is back in 2018 when I came on with the city, it was Mike Killebrew who was the ADA coordinator, and I was the ADA coordinator for the county. And I was recruited to come to the city and put a program together. So the program was Office of Accessibility. And since then, we've grown to where it's Mike Killebrew, who was the original. I have Jason Crow, who came from the state, 16 and a half years with the state, Voc Rehab and ADA. And then I have a project engineer, Tim Hartong, and he came from the military. He was from the National Missile Defense Agency. He's actually I always brag on this. He's a West Point grad, right? And he's a pretty sharp guy. And he was an Army captain, and he has a passion for working with persons with disabilities. And I was kind of wondering how that came to be, but come to find out that his wife is a speech therapist. Okay. And so that's pretty neat. So they have a common interest in somewhat. And then I have Kevin McDaniel, who is a web accessibility. He's an ADA coordinator, but he's also a web accessibility guru, I call him. And and I say guru because we've gotten awards because of him from the Colorado Coalition, and we're leading the state to include the state on web accessibility. We're helping the state with their House bill right now because they pushed this House bill, but there's a lot of questions that weren't answered, and we're helping out with that, and we're trying to lay out some groundwork so that we can move forward across the state and hopefully bring that web accessibility to a forefront, But anyway, so that's my office, and I'm an Air Force retiree myself. I've been in compliance for, years. I was on a team called the Inspector General when I retired at Air Force Space Command. So I was in the compliance field. I was the safety manager. So that's how I got into the compliance area. So when I retired, I went to work for the sheriff's office for about 8.5 years. And then I moved over to a different part of the county, and they asked me to start an ADA program. And a lot of that was, how many of you heard of Patricia Yeager? Yep. So Patricia Yeager was and is still a great advocate for the ADA, and she had a lot to do with the city and the county, putting an ADA program together. And since then, Patricia and I have become very, very close friends. And so she's retired, and we still keep in touch. But anyway, so now we have a pretty big office, and I said that my title had changed, or it's going to change, because recently I just took over language access. So we now are overseeing the language access plan. So that's for limited English proficiency, and we've just debuted our new website on Thursday. So if you get a chance, go to the coloradosprings.gov website. And we're still working through all the kinks, but if you go through, we're trying to come up with a different symbol, but if you go on the website on the left, it says accessibility and it has a wheelchair symbol. We're trying to get creative on how we can make that to where it's not just the wheelchair, but also the linguistic, but the key word is accessibility, right? And if you go on that, it'll take you to our landing page, and you'll be able to see what my office does, and we're very transparent. We did our transition plan. We completed that August of last year, and that was a job that we started when I got here in 2018. It took us a while, but we finally got through. It's a better part of almost a 30,000 page document. Lots of self-evaluation throughout the entire city. And we've broken it up into several chapters. We had to, or phases, because it's so big. So we broke it up into phases. It's very detailed. I encourage you to go out there and look at it. And now we're working, and we've been working towards corrective actions, applying funding every year throughout the year on making the city a more accessible place for all. And you'll be able to see that. And then we're also trying to get creative in a lot of other ways by coming up with some best practices, not only for web accessibility, but for other areas. We've even like on our beach, we put Moby matting Moby matting in. We have that available for the, how many of you are aware what Moby matting is? Okay, so Moby matting is a nice item that we can add to the beach. It allows somebody in a wheelchair to be able to traverse. But more so, we decided, well, wow, that's great, but it also still kind of limits a little bit. So we also purchased 2 wheelchair beach chairs, wheel beach chairs, I guess you could call them. So those are pretty neat. And then recently, looking at our trails, and we're trying to get creative there as far as how can we provide the experience to persons with disabilities that aren't able to traverse through some of these trails, right? So we purchased 2 track chairs. Well, actually, we purchased one. We matched our therapeutic recreation program. They purchased one, and we matched them and bought the other one. So they're already in. So we're hoping to be able to start using them this summer. Pretty excited about that. And yeah, I mean, there's just so much going on throughout the city. You can see the city being, I don't want to say torn up, but um, I guess you could say repaired, right? So you'll see sidewalks and curb ramps being put in. In some cases, you'll see sidewalks that look like they're in great shape. And, occasionally we'll get a complaint from a citizen saying, hey, why are my tax dollars being used to replace sidewalk that was in perfectly good shape? We have to explain to them, well, even though it was in good shape and we did an alteration on the road, the federal law requires that we replace any sidewalk that does not meet the ADA compliance, and also install the curb ramps to include the truncation domes, the warning devices, and so on. So once we explain that to them, then they understand. But you can see throughout the city that we have a lot going on, and so we have several different things going on. We have our parks and recreation that we're working with. We're our web accessibility, our facilities. We get a budget for our facilities, and what we're doing there is renovating and to include new construction to make sure that it's ADA compliant from the beginning, that inclusion part. And we're working with the city to change the culture so that its inclusion is just an automatic thing. Because if we just think from the very beginning, the engineering standpoint, accessibility for all, then you're really going to eliminate those barriers from the very beginning. And so with that, and then going back and looking at our transition plan, correcting all the barriers as we go forward. So we have a lot to do, and definitely not going to be, how can I put it? Job security is definitely there. So ADA is not going anywhere. Anyway, I can go on, but that's who I am, and that's who the Office of Accessibility is. We have a great mayor, and he's very proactive to support the ADA. I mean, you figure there was one ADA coordinator. Now I'm a manager. We have 4 ADA coordinators, and recently we hired, or excuse me, we're getting ready to interview for a language access coordinator. And that person should start probably sometime in April.
Awesome.
So,
Great. Thank you so much. It looks like Paul Spots has a quick question. Paul, do you want to come off mute?
Hey, Rob, I got a question about those track chairs.
Yeah.
Where are they located? And do you provide assistance getting in and out of those?
Yeah, there's actually some personnel that have been put in charge from Parks to be the caretakers for those chairs and also provide guidance and help on that. We're establishing a process right now so that when somebody wants to use it, we have established guidelines, rules, regulations, that kind of thing, for everyone's safety and how to go about that. That we're in the process of doing that right now.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate all of that. I will make sure that when we send out the meeting notes that we've got a link to the website so that people can reach out and contact you if they have any further questions or concerns. So yeah, that's great. Yay. Items for next meeting, do we have any? No? Maybe?
Most likely we will be voting in new members.
Wonderful.
So-
Fantastic. That will be exciting.
Yeah.
Always a good time.
Yep.
All right. Well, I think that's it. We did it. Thank you so much, everybody, for hanging in there. I know that it was a long meeting, but it was incredibly productive and very informative. And I thank everybody for joining us today. Go forth and enjoy some of this sunshine after the cold that we've had. It's going to be warming up, or at least that's what my weather app says. So with that, I will adjourn the meeting at 10:46 a.m. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of the day, and we'll see you all next time.